The last day of the NBA regular season, my personal favorite slate to play. This is going to be like a summer league slate, like a preseason slate, and I cannot wait. I will say this, general advice, minutes, opportunity, greater than talent. So this is definitely a slate that you can leave salary on the table. I'm not saying that you need to, but if you have, let's just say one team only has like 7 active guys. If you have like someone playing like 40 minutes, then yeah, like I might prefer a guy like that over like a 7K, I don't know, like Draymond Green or something, right? So, very, very important. Also on a slate like this, there's only a couple teams that have something to play for. So any vet that is playing in a meaningless game tomorrow, be very, very careful, right? We saw it. Vucevic only played 3 quarters. We saw it. Portis just didn't even play the last slate. We saw it with Tatum, only played a half. So that's just general advice. But before we get into the breakdown, let's recap everything from tonight. So you better believe we full swept the board again on Prize Picks. 4 for 4. Both YouTube plays hit. And then we hit Agbachi and Chris Dunn. Agbachi over fantasy score and Dunn over his assist. So we full swept the board. It's been a phenomenal run over there on Prize Picks. So that was great. And I also did have Zach Collins over, but he got a DNP. Also, play, huge takedown too, $1,000. You absolutely love to see it. My take in the stream was I was really high in the Spurs. I thought they were just going a bit overlooked. Once we got that news, they only had 9 active guys. Really like Jones, really like a Mumuklishvili, like some of the value plays. So you love to see that. Again, a lot of people tail the Prize Picks. And yeah. And then my personal lineup, I cashed, but it could have been a much bigger day. Why did Trey Jones play almost the entire second half? I needed like another couple $100 to afford Trey Jones. I had to settle on Branham. And I was thinking the fourth quarter, I'm like, all right, it's going to be all Branham and Wesley at no ownership, and I can actually win this. But Trey Jones played like 7 minutes in the fourth. They're up by like 40. I'm like, what are we doing? If it was the other way around and I needed Trey Jones, you better believe he would have been on the bench the whole fourth quarter. He sat for like 2 minutes in the third quarter, then came right back into the fourth. What are we doing, man? What are we doing? Anthony Edwards got injured. Luckily, he came back. I would have been so incredibly mad if he was out for the game. But yeah, the Jazz guys, I ate the Jazz chalk. There's no way I was fading Chris Dunn. Agbachi smashed and Samanich smashed as well. Went to Ant and Cat as my spend-ups. Muklishvili, Branham, and Wesley rounded out there for the Spurs. Again, I did want Trey Jones, but I couldn't afford him, so I went to Branham. Still a good night, but it could have been a much bigger night. At one point, I was in like first place, but yeah, Trey Jones triple-double and just playing like almost the entire second half was that was the nail in the coffin for me for the big money. Also, I get like, look at this account. This is probably not a good sign. Looking at my balance, man, that's not a good sign. This has happened twice now. This happened like a couple weeks ago. There's just no way that it works out that perfectly. But yeah, that's the recap of DraftKings. Hope you guys had a good night. And before we talk about the 15-game slate, we'll talk about the sponsor of the video really quick. That would be Prize Picks. If you guys are not, or if you're not on Prize Picks, you can use the code DKDFS for 100% match up to $100. That'll give you a free $100 to play with on the site. I'll also have it linked down below. And if you're looking for premium content for DFS or for Prize Picks, you can check my Patreon. It's been a great run for us of late. All right, so let's do it. I'll do my best to break it down. We'll start off with Atlanta and Boston. So Atlanta, nothing to play for. They're resting like all their main guys, but they're not as shorthanded as some other teams. So no Trey, no Murray, no Capella, no Collins, and Bogdanovich. DeAndre Hunter, I believe, is out too, or he's probable. But like, be careful of some of these guys like Bay and Hunter. Actual rotation players for teams that are somewhat deep. I'm like worried about. So guys like Bay, Hunter, and Okongwu. I think they're fair plays, but I'm a little bit worried that they don't see full complement of minutes. If I'm going to play someone in Atlanta, it might be like a guy like Jalen Johnson or AJ Griffin, who are not bad point per minute guys and should see a lot of run in a game like this. However, again, there's more teams that are a lot more shorthanded than Atlanta, so I'm not as interested in this team. Boston's one of those teams I said be careful about, right? They have nothing to play for. Right now, like White and Brogdon are apparently going to play. Brown's out. Tatum's questionable. I'll be shocked if he plays. If he does, it's maybe only half. Even if White and Brogdon play, I'm not confident at all they play full complement of minutes. And then they just have too many guys, right? If Tatum and White and Brogdon play like a half, it's just going to really hurt the value. So there's really not much at all here for Boston that I'm interested in. For Detroit, I mean, it's been the same story. I think guys like Ivy and Hayes are reasonable. They should play a ton. The Pistons are still relatively shorthanded. 42 minutes back-to-back games for Ivy. I actually think he's solid. And then Killian Hayes, 35 and 40 minutes. So the Pistons are kind of like the Rockets, where they don't have anything to play for, but they're going to play the young guys a ton. So you can feel pretty confident in the minutes for these guys. So for that reason, again, I have interest in Ivy, I have interest in Hayes. The Big's not as interested. You got a combination of Duran, Wiseman, and Bagley kind of splitting the center position. So they kind of eat away at each other. So I think it's probably just Hayes and Ivy that I like. For Chicago, well, right now, Vooch is going to play, but again, he only played 3 quarters last game. He did smash when he was out there, but I don't think I can get to Vooch. He might only play a half. We'll see. DeRozan, Levine, I'd be pretty surprised if they play. You saw huge minutes for Kobe White last game. Played 42 minutes and absolutely smashed. Ayo Dosunmu played a good amount too. He played 38 minutes. Pat Williams, he played a good chunk, 37 minutes. So those guys are definitely viable. You saw a DNP for Drummond, but I'm not sure if we get the same type of run again from them. So if you told me for sure that Kobe, Ayo, and Pat Williams are playing high 30s to low 40s minutes, then yes, I like them. Kobe would be my favorite, but a little bit worried that maybe they could scale back a bit. Caruso probably plays, but only plays like limited minutes. I have no interest in him. Again, Drummond was a DNP last game. Maybe he plays in this game. But I think there's going to be other teams that are a lot more shorthanded that we just don't really have to mess with that. Orlando and Miami. So I don't think any of these main guys play for the Magic. We'll see about Cole Anthony. I think if he doesn't start, I'm not confident at all that he plays. That happened 2 games ago. They said he was going to play. He came off the bench and he didn't start. And then he's got a DNP. So if that is the case, the Magic could be relatively shorthanded. Let's just say Cole Anthony doesn't play too. Then we have Goga, Okeke, Houston, Suggs, Bull, Harris, Schofield, Michael Carter-Williams. That would be 8. If that is the case, then we can definitely look at some of these guys. Jalen Suggs, probably would start and play, mid to high 20s minutes. The only issue is that the minutes have not been amazing in him last couple games. I think, guys like Bataze, Bull, guys that would be really productive on the court are interesting. Michael Carter-Williams honestly could be playable if he starts. But yeah, we'll see what the Magic do, who exactly is available, and what the starting lineup is. But maybe a little bit of interest in them. For Miami, I don't think any of these main guys play. I mean, they have Bam probable. There's just no reason to play these guys. I'm not targeting any of these main Miami guys at all. Last game, Zeller started. This team is still they still have a good chunk of bodies though. They have Zeller. Love for some reason is not on the injury report. I don't know why he would play. If they start ruling out some more guys, then we can maybe start looking at a guy like Yurt Goat 7. Maybe Victor Oladipo had a good game off the bench, but Gabe Vincent. But again, they still have a good chunk. Or Oladipo is actually on the injury report, or he's probable. I think right now Miami has too many guys for me to go to them. Charlotte and Cleveland. So Charlotte, the Hornets, there's no chance Dennis Smith Jr. is playing. So we have Maladon 1, Mikhailuk 2, Mark Williams 3, McGowan's 4, Richards 5, Thor 6, Jones 7, Bogdan 8. They have 10 guys. Again, last game they did play all 3 centers, which is not great. I think the only guys I'd have some interest in probably would be Maladon and see Mikhailuk. Maladon's been playing close to 40 minutes a game, so he's definitely playable. And Mikhailuk's been playing, low to mid 30s minutes. It's probably only those 2. The centers, not getting enough run right now. McGowan's is too pricey for me. I'm not going to mess with anything else. I think it's just Maladon and it's just Fee Mikhailuk. For Cleveland, another team that's nothing to play for. They have Allen questionable. Mobley, for some reason, is not in the injury report. Again, be careful there. I have no confidence that he plays full minutes. Cleveland still has a lot of guys, though. So this also kind of worries me. I think if I was to play someone on Cleveland, it probably would be a guy like Chetty Osman, who was absolutely smashing. Probably would have played about 30 minutes if the game would have stayed competitive, but the game was a massive blowout. They still have too many guys for me to go to them. Mobley might play a little bit, but again, not enough for me to get to him. So not really interested in Cleveland right now. For the Pacers, they have a ton of guys questionable. Brissett, Naismith, Jackson, Smith, McConnell, and Turner. If those guys are all out, I believe there's only 8 active guys for the Pacers. Mathurin would be 1, Nembhard 2, Nwora 3, Hield 4, York 5, Johnson 6, Hill 7, Tice 8. If that is the case, then I like guys like Nembhard, Mathurin, and Nwora, who I think would just play a ton of minutes. Nembhard would probably play mid to high 30s minutes. Same with Mathurin, same with Nwora. So those 3 would look good if all those questionable players are out. And then they would have no bigs. So Tice has not played in forever, but he could start. They could also start James Johnson, who played the backup 5 last game. I would think, though, that probably one of Jackson or Smith would be available, but we could get a situation where we're looking to dust a dusty vet like Tice or Johnson. I don't think I could get to George Hill. Gabe York, I probably can't do either. I think it would be mainly Mather, Nemhard, Nwora. I'm surprised Heald isn't on the injury report. His minutes have not been great. Like, he'll be productive, but I could see him being somewhat limited too. So I think it would mainly be the top 3 guys to look to for the Pacers if all those guys are out. If some of these guys are in and they have like 10, 11 guys, then I'm probably not going to get to the Pacers. For the Knicks, well, they have nothing to play for. But right now, I think Thibodeau's just going to play his main guys normal minutes unless we hear otherwise. So there is some risk here. But I think getting to guys like Quickly or Barrett are reasonable options. If you give Quickly and Barrett, high 30s minutes, they're playable. Again, though, I think there's a chance that they could see limited minutes because they have nothing to play for. But they had nothing to play for last game, and they still play their main guys a ton. So I think it's just Quickly and Barrett. I don't think I'm going to get to anyone else on this team. Milwaukee and Toronto. So this was one, again, this was the biggest edge of the slate last night where we got the Bucks starting lineup. For some reason, people kept Bobby Portis. 30% of people kept Bobby Portis in the $150 tournament when it was very clear he was not going to play. So starting lineup's going to be really important here. And last game, AJ Green got injured early too. If they run a starting lineup of like Wigington, Beauchamp, Crowder, Thanasis Antetokounmpo, and Myers Leonard, then I think they're going to run a really tight rotation. I would be very surprised if Portis plays. I don't know if I would be very surprised if Ingles plays. You might see a little bit of like Matthews, Dragic off the bench, Carter maybe a little bit off the bench, but I think they would run their young guys into the ground like they did last game. Wigington, again, I played him at no ownership last slate, a 50 bomb. He's a guy that can stuff the stat sheet. Again, I know him from the summer league. And again, no one played him last slate. So I would like Wigington, I would like Beauchamp probably the most because they're just going to play those guys a ton. 43 minutes for Beauchamp, 41 for Wigington. Thanasis Antetokounmpo played a ton. He played 38 minutes. He would look pretty good. Myers Leonard was really bad, but he's also cheap. Only played 26 minutes. I would think he could play a little bit more here. So would have interest in him. And then Crowder, again, he started last game, but he only played 24 minutes. So I'm not as excited about the vets like Crowder, Carter, Dragic, Matthews. I'm more so looking to those young guys. Wigington, Beauchamp, Thanasis Antetokounmpo. Well, Myers Leonard's not young, but like he'll just probably play a lot. But if you wanted to look to Dragic off the bench in that scenario, you could. He did play 26 minutes last game. But again, I think it's mainly Wigington, Beauchamp, Thanasis Antetokounmpo if they run that same starting lineup as last time. For Toronto, so here's another one, right? They don't have anything to play for, but like Pirtle and Scotty Barnes, Achua, Trent are not on the injury report. I don't understand why. They have a lot of active guys. I'm really cautious of this team. I don't think we see full minutes from any of these main guys that will play. So I'm probably going to stay away from Toronto. Like, can you look to like a Chris Boucher? Maybe he'll be very productive, but I don't know how many minutes he's going to play. They have too many active guys with some of these vets playing. So right now, Toronto's basically just a stay away from me. Houston and Washington. So Houston's like Detroit, right? They're just going to play their main guys a ton. So one of the few teams you can feel pretty confident in their minutes. I like Şengün, KPJ, and Jalen Green, and that's about it. I expect mid to high 30s minutes for Şengün. He'll be very productive when he's in the court. Back-to-back, 3 straight 50 bombs from him. Kevin Porter Jr. dealt with some foul trouble, still played 38 minutes. Jalen Green should play close to 40 minutes. So it's Green, it's Porter, it's Şengün. I like all 3 quite a bit. I don't think I can get to Jabari Smith. He'll play a lot too. But he's usually a guy I look to when Şengün is out and he starts at the 5. I'm not going to mess with Martin or Eason on this slate. It's just Şengün, it's just Porter, it's just Green. For Washington, so they're shorthanded. They still technically, I believe, have 10 guys, though. Davis 1, Goodwin 2, Kispert 3, Huff 4, Nunn 5, Jackson 6, Cook 7, Gill 8, Gibson 9, Todd 10. I don't think that Taj Gibson plays here. So I think they'll have 9 guys. That's still not super shorthanded. I think you get a good amount of run for guys like Davis, Goodwin, 5-9 for Goodwin. I think the starting lineup will probably be Goodwin, Davis, Kispert, Gill, Huff would be my guess. I think Jay Huff looks solid. I mean, he's productive when he's in the court. He'll probably play, I don't know, around 30 minutes. So like Huff, like those guards. Nunn will be really productive when he's in the court, but his minutes have not been great. Only played 16 minutes last game. He'll probably play like low 20s. And then I don't think I can get to like Jackson or Cooks. Isaiah Todd probably plays the backup 5, but he has been like the last guy in for Washington. Philadelphia and Brooklyn. So Philadelphia, once again, resting all their main guys. Niang's status up in the air too. That can open up a little bit more minutes. If Niang is out, they probably go Danville House in the starting lineup. So I would think the starting lineup would be Milton, Springer, House, McDaniels, and Paul Reed. I think it's Milton and McDaniels I like the best. Shake Milton shot awful in the first half. Did end up coming back, smashed in overtime, went for a 40 bomb. I like him a good amount. McDaniels should play a good amount. He's a guy that can stuff the stat sheet. So I like Milton. I like McDaniels. Paul Reed, the only issue I have with Paul Reed, he's going to be very, very productive in the court, is that they have two centers behind him, with Dedmon and with Harrell. Now, I know he dealt with some foul trouble, but how many minutes can we get from Paul Reed? If you told me Paul Reed played 30-plus minutes, I would like him a good amount. But again, the issue, they have Harrell behind him, they have Dedmon behind him. I'm not going to look to House. I do think Springer's playable. Started last game, played 34 minutes, relatively scoring dependent, but it's cheap. And then I'm not going to mess with anyone else for Philly. For Brooklyn, so this is one of those teams I think is going to be really shorthanded. Royce O'Neal is out. I don't know why they don't have the injury, or they don't have that on DraftKings. All these main guys, there's just no way anyone's going to play. Bridges is going to start and just play a couple minutes, and that's it, right? To keep his streak alive. So that leaves Brooklyn really shorthanded. And Sumner News is actually really important because he's a guy that will play in this game if he's available, but he's questionable. So Sumner's out 2. That leaves Sharp 1, Thomas 2, Mills 3, Brown 4, Smith 5, Duke 6, Watanabe 7. And again, Bridges would probably start and play a couple minutes. So if that is the case and Sumner doesn't play, then there's 2 guys that really stand out to me, Cam Thomas and Day'Ron Sharpe. Cam Thomas, Summer League, guy that I played all the time, every single Summer League slate. When you have a depleted roster like this is Cam Thomas's team. I absolutely love him. I think he's one of the best values on the board. I think he's going to play massive minutes here. Same with Day'Ron Sharpe. I think he starts. I think he plays around 30 minutes, well north of a fantasy point per minute guy. I really like Cam Thomas, and I really like Day'Ron Sharpe. But you can still make the argument for some more of these guys. Patty Mills, he's a vet, but he's probably going to play pretty big minutes in this game. I think he's playable. Moses Brown, I would think, plays the backup 5. I think he's reasonable. I'd rather get to Sharpe, but Brown's in play. Smith, Duke, Watanabe, these are all guys that are going to play a ton of minutes. So it's not just Thomas and Sharpe, but those 2 stand out the most to me. I have no interest in Bridges. He's going to play limited minutes. So, and if Sumner's out, that makes the value look even better. If Sumner's in, then I would say Sumner, Sharpe, and Cam Thomas would be my 3 favorite plays on Brooklyn. Memphis and OKC. So this is another team that is pretty shorthanded. All the main guys listed as doubtful. There's no way any of those guys are playing. Zaire Williams is probable. He hasn't played, though, in forever. So how many minutes can Zaire Williams play, number one? They released Kennedy Chandler. He's no longer with the team. So let's just count this out, right? Nard 1, Tillman 2, Conchar 3, Roddy 4, Lofton 5, Williams 6, the other Williams 7. That's 7 guys. I count 7 guys right now with Zaire Williams coming back from when was the last game he played? It's been 3 weeks. So this team is pretty shorthanded. Now, Nard, Tillman, and Conchar are guys that are definitely going to be productive, but I could see them of the Grizzlies that are available, them seeing probably the least minutes. They're actually rotation players, right? Kennard, Tillman, and Conchar are rotation players, where these young guys, Roddy, Lofton, Williams, the other Williams, not really in the rotation. Those guys I think see the most run. But we'll see the starting lineup. I definitely like Kennard. I definitely like Tillman. I definitely like Conchar. It's just, again, that those are actually guys that do see rotation minutes for this team. So I think my favorite plays on Memphis are probably Kenny Lofton, who is just a phenomenal point per minute guy. I think he sees a good amount of work here, just well north of a fantasy point per minute guy. I really like him. I really like David Roddy. I think these guys could see as many minutes as they can handle. So I really like Roddy and Lofton. Vince Williams, not as excited about him. He's a guy that was on the Summer League team, just not super productive. Zaire Williams, I mean, with this team, I can see him being relatively productive, but how many minutes can he play? That's the only concern I have with Zaire Williams. But he's a guy that can go give you a triple-double. So I want to see the news in Zaire Williams. I think Memphis is a little bit tricky right now, right? Because they're really, really shorthanded. But how many minutes do they want to give to Tillman, Kennard, and Conchar? If you're confident those guys play huge minutes, then yeah, you want to look to everyone at Memphis. But I think the guys I'm the most confident in would be Roddy and Lofton. All right, Oklahoma City. So they're relatively shorthanded, but not as shorthanded as some other teams. Wiggins 1, Joe 2, Sarge 3, Waters 4, Butler 5, Mann 6, Jang 7, JRE 8, Sar 9. So they have 9 active guys. They have a ton of bigs, though. Sar, JRE, Saric, all bigs. So I'm not as excited about the bigs. I think the guys I like and here's the trick. Isaiah Joe is kind of like a rotation player. So what are we going to see minutes-wise for him, right? And that's a tough part of a slate like this, of trying to figure out a guy like Joe or, John Conchar or, Luke Kennard. How many minutes are they going to, even though the teams are shorthanded, those are rotation players. So That's the concern I have with Joe is like, I don't know how many minutes he can play. I think my favorite options probably would be Ousmane Dieng. He's a guy that can kind of play the 4/wing. I like him a good amount at 3K. I think Trey Mann looks pretty good. He's a guy that when given minutes can chuck. So I think Mann, Ousmane Dieng I like. I have interest in Lindy Waters. Not as excited about Saric because he's a vet, so I don't know how many minutes he'll play. And then Aaron Wiggins should play a good chunk too. So I think it's, Wiggins, it's Dieng, it's Waters, it's Trey Mann that I like the best. We'll keep an eye on the starting lineup though. San Antonio and Dallas. So, I assume we just get a similar team out there as last game where they only have like 9 guys. If that's the case, then yeah, Trey Jones looks good. He'll be super productive when he's in the court if he's available. Mamukelashvili would be solid. He'll probably start and play high 20s minutes. I don't think I'll get to Bates Diop. I think that you can maybe look to like Champagne or Wesley or Branham, but I would say probably Jones and Mamukelashvili would be my favorite plays in the Spurs. We'll see exactly who is available. For Dallas, so right now they ruled out Luka, Kyrie, Hardaway, Green, Bullock, Kleba. I'm a little bit worried about Wood and Hardy, right? These are guys that have not been ruled out, but they only played Hardy a half last game. Wood's more of a vet, so like, do they really want to play him the same? They still have a ton of active guys. This team worries me. If you're confident that Hardy and Wood play normal minutes, then yes, fire them up. But I'm not confident in that at all. So this team, and if they do play and only play a half, it hurts the rest of the value. So at the moment, Dallas is probably a fade for me. We'll see news, though, and we'll see if they end up ruling anyone else out. New Orleans, Minnesota. So this is like one of the few games that actually matter here. Both teams want to win. So New Orleans is a team you can look to for spend ups. Ingram and CJ, I think really the only guys I'm looking to. They should play close to 40 minutes. This is a game where, again, both teams are playing for something. So I like CJ, I like Ingram. That's about it. The minutes on JV have been a little bit too up and down for me to go to him on a slate like this at this price point. So yeah, I think it's just Ingram, it's just CJ. I know you've had back-to-back good games from Trey Murphy. I'm just going to rather get to Ingram or CJ. On the Minnesota side, it's the same thing. I'm just looking to the top guys. Just Anthony Edwards and just Karl-Anthony Towns. I'm not going to go to Gobert. I know he had a good game today. I'm not doing it. It's Cat and it's Ant, and that is it. I think Anthony Edwards plays a ton. He did roll his ankle, so keep an eye on that. I think he'll be okay. And Karl-Anthony Towns probably plays low to mid 30s minutes. So it's Cat, it's Anthony Edwards. That's it. I'm not getting to anyone else in Minnesota. Sacramento and Denver. This just doesn't be very, very careful here. Sacramento's nothing to play for. For some reason, they have their main guys not on the injury report. I don't understand why. I have no interest in these guys if they play. I think you might, if they play, maybe they only play a half. If they end up ruling a lot of guys out, then we can start looking to maybe some of the value, like maybe Terrence Davis or maybe Alex Len or PJ Dozier, if they end up resting a ton of these guys. But right now, it's a complete stay away for Sacramento. For Denver, what are we doing, Mike Malone? What are we actually doing? He played their guys 3 quarters today in a completely meaningless game. What are you doing? What are you doing, man? There's just no way these guys are going to play tomorrow. There's no way they're playing on a back-to-back. I'd be absolutely shocked if Jokic, Murray, Gordon, MPJ, like any of these guys play. So I want to see who exactly is available for Denver, but maybe looking at guys like a Peyton Watson, whoever starts the 5. I don't know if they'll play Bruce Brown. Maybe they'll even set Reggie Jackson. We could look to like Ish Smith possibly. So Denver's, again, I'd be pretty surprised if any of these main guys play, but I want to see exactly who's in and who's out. Utah and the Lakers, so there's no way any of these guys are going to play that are questionable. There's no way. So one thing to note, though, is Utah did sign Vernon Carey. It just didn't make any sense. What on earth are we doing? The Jazz, even though they're shorthanded, they have like 5 bigs. Just sign another big for the last game of the season? What are we thinking here? Like, what is the thought process of signing another center? They have Jones, they have Azubuike, they have Samancic, Mika Potter. They have so many bigs, and let's just sign another big for the last game. What are we doing? It makes no sense. But yeah, I like Chris Dunn and Abachi because these guys are going to play a ton of minutes, and they're going to do everything for the team. I expect mid-30s minutes for Dunn, similar for Abachi. So I like them both just because this team is very shorthanded. I think Samancic is reasonable. I would say those 3 probably the only guys I've been interested in. I'm not messing with JTA. That's fish food. I'm not messing with Johnny Juzeg. I'm not messing with the bigs. So it's just Don Agbachi and maybe a little bit interested in Samancic. Now the Lakers, they're listing their guys as questionable, but they can still move up and down here. So I'm pretty sure they're going to play. So AD and LeBron, assuming they play, are both reasonable. I do prefer AD to LeBron. The minutes have not been amazing on LeBron. He also just went out there and Like, it looked like he didn't even care last game. But, yeah, I think Anthony Davis would probably be the guy. Now, if they do sit guys, which would be kind of surprising if they do, then we can look to, like, D'Lo, Reeves, maybe whoever starts at the 5. But if they do sit their guys, then that worries me a bit of, like, okay, they actually don't care that much about this game, and they're just going to empty the bench. So, yeah, we'll keep an eye on the news. I think they're going to play because the Lakers, again, they can still move up. They can still move down. They can still get out of the play-in, technically. The Clippers and the Suns, so I'm a little bit cautious here, but the Clippers still have something to play for. But right now, I think they're playing the Suns, like, in the playoffs, I think. So they actually would probably want to lose this game. Ty Lue said they're going to play the main guys in a back-to-back. I am really cautious here. We've seen Lue troll so many times this season. Ty Lue owes me a lot of money where he's played guys and he's played them only a half. So I'd be very careful. But if you're confident that you see full minutes from Kawhi and full minutes from Westbrook, then yes, you can fire them up. Zubac will be productive when he's out in the court, but I'm a little bit cautious with this team. I will say, if you think that he trolls, you can possibly look to Bones Highland, but there's just too many teams that are way more shorthanded that I probably won't even do that. For the Suns, so no Booker, no Durant, no Paul, no Ayton, no Payne, no Biyombo. Warren, I believe, won't play. We'll keep an eye on that. He's doubtful, yeah. So that's going to leave Craig 1, Okogie 2, Ross 3, Landale 4, Sham at 5, Wainwright 6, Saban Lee 7, Damian Lee 8, Baisley 9. Now, this is a team that I would be a little bit careful with the guys that are actually in the rotation. That would be Torrey Craig, that would be Okogie, that would be Terrence Ross, right? Those guys I could see, they'll be productive in the court, but I could see them seeing somewhat limited minutes. I think the main guys I've interested in for Phoenix, probably Saban Lee and Jock Landale. They don't really have any other bigs. I think Baisley probably plays the backup 5. But yeah, Landale, if you see 30-plus minutes from him, I don't mind that. And then Saban Lee, I think, could start at the point because they don't have any other guards available. So I think the starting lineup probably will be something like Saban Lee, Shamet, Craig, Okogie, Landale, something like that maybe. So yeah, I think, Saban Lee, Landale, probably my favorites. Would have a little bit of interest in a guy like Landry Shamet. I'm not going to get to Wainwright. Damian Lee may be a little bit viable as well, and Baisley, I think, plays the backup 5, but I would rather get to Landale. And finally, Golden State and Portland. So Golden State definitely has something to play for here. Now, this is massive blowout risk, but they're going to play their guys' normal minutes as long as the game stays competitive. So I think it's Steph that I like a good amount at the top. I think he sees low to mid-30s minutes in this game, so I like Steph. I don't know if I get to anyone else. Like Clay and Poole, yes, they're playable, but this slate's salary really doesn't matter. So I'm just going to jam. Like, if I'm playing a spend up, I'm going all the way to the top, right? So I'm not saying you can't play Clay and Poole, but I don't know if it makes a ton of sense to go there. I'm not going to mess with any of the mid-range guys. I think it's really just Steph that I'm interested in. And finally, Portland. So let's just talk about this, man. Shaedon Sharpe had like 45 minutes tonight. But when I play at no ownership, a couple slates ago, Chauncey benches him. I played him this slate. He was absolutely smashing. Had 40 fantasy points going in the fourth quarter. Just never played. And then he screwed me with Skylar Mays, too. So what are we doing, man? When I fade Shaedon Sharpe, he plays 22 first half minutes. Come on, man. You can't do that. You actually cannot do that to me. But, yeah, so I believe if all these guys are out again, you'll have 9 active guys. I think it's mainly Shaedon Sharpe that I've been interested in, just because if you give him like 40 minutes here, I like his ceiling, but just a little careful, because if they troll like a couple games, like it's possible that they just bench Shaedon Sharpe down the stretch if the game stays competitive. But I think it's Sharpe. I don't know if I get to Mays or Watford. Didn't play as much. Knox had a big game. I think he's, playable. I think he went for a 50 bomb. So I think it's Sharpe. It's Knox. Mays, how many minutes did he play? I don't have it updated yet. Do they have Watford's minutes updated yet? No, but yeah, I think it's mainly those guys. More so just Shaedon Sharpe that I like for the Portland Trailblazers. Okay, so that's a rundown of everything, guys. What I'm saying right now obviously can change, but that's the slate. So I'm excited for this one. These are my favorite type of slates. The biggest edge, in my opinion. Yes, it's stressful. Yes, there's a lot going on, but if you know what you're doing, you can make a lot of money on slates like this. So really appreciate the support. As always, make sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you do enjoy. It's been a great NBA regular season. I'm excited for the playoffs, and let's make some money on the last day of the season.